Sterling Hart, and this is Dreamlight, where we work with dream interpretation and using the insights in the waking life. What does it mean to dream you are crazy? So here we mean in the dream you have a sense of being mentally ill, but it could be crazy genius or the world appearing as crazy. It's not just that the dream itself is crazy, the latter one is pretty common. Much would apply also to dreaming someone else is crazy, as characters in dreams are most often aspects of yourself. There is little in the way of diagnosis in dreams. If you dream you are mentally ill, it is a symbol. It can represent underlying emotions and viewpoints that need to be dealt with, but it is not a symptom. So if you're afraid it might be a predictive dream, it is more likely to be about fear itself than a vision of your future. If you have suffered or do suffered with something like depression, the symbols can refer to your sense of self from the condition as part of your personal associations. The root is often a fear of loss of control or lack of power in some form, or a lack of acceptance. But there can be positive aspects in dreams where crazy deals with growth and new awareness and expanding conception of reality. Here are some main themes. Dealing with situations where you internalize some dysfunction around you, where you are not listening to something and avoiding it, such as running from family problems. Feelings of inadequacy to deal with a situation, or you don't feel you were good enough. Things are changing and new awareness and experiences are coming and the world seems crazy. Where you don't trust what is happening or don't trust yourself to see things clearly. Fear of being labeled or stigmatized. Not accepting something of yourself or others. Relating to authority figures. Creative energies. Being afraid of a loss of control. The effects of something could be a person or situation that causes you to act differently or changes you. Being confronted in yourself or others with irrationality, something that doesn't add up or make sense. Being self-critical about inability, dysfunction versus a moral failing. Not feeling deserving can lead us to fear something bad is happening, like going crazy. Lack of acceptance leads to this can't be happening. In dream interpretation, we get presented with things in the dream and then examine them. In waking life, we often have things that have gone unexamined. In dream interpretation, the main thing is to ask questions. This is one of the benefits. Learning and gaining a habit of asking questions, directing the mind, exploring. The questions don't really need a correct or final answer. It is to get the mind moving and bring up what is important to you. Notice crazy, mental illness, insanity are charged words. They can be used both to like something, to value it, to be funny, or they can refer to suffering and dysfunction. So, though crazy can be related to fear and anxiety, it can also be related to humor, or recognizing something isn't working, or even point out new kinds of experience and awareness. Craziness in dreams appears in 4 ways, and they can be in combination. The first is the named illness, where there is a named illness in the dream. It doesn't need to be a correct name or even a real one, so just the idea that you have some condition that is known. The second is the symptom. This is a symptom such as a hallucination or objects talking to you, and in the dream it is understood to be part of an illness. The third is call me crazy, where you are being called crazy or being treated like it, such as dreaming you are in an institution. The fourth is the twilight zone, is where anywhere in the dream you question whether something is real or you don't know what's real. This is crazy, and you might add, so I must be crazy. This can be used as a reality check, a technique to become lucid. This can't be happening, I must be dreaming. The meanings can overlap among categories. For instance, you have an issue that will be symbolized by a named illness, symptom, or being labeled as crazy, all in the same dream. What drives you crazy? It's best to examine your own personal associations. The elements of the dream are either dealing with you or your relation to the world, ideas or memories. When you examine your associations with mental illness, it is not about becoming a psychiatrist, but about your self-conception. There are 5 areas: emotions, thoughts, actions, perceptions, or is it a situation? Is there an emotion being referred to in the dream? Do you feel out of place? Is there an idea that seems crazy? What about an action that may be reckless? Or an action that can't work? Or an action that is odd? Do you see something that others don't? Everyone might think you are crazy, but in fact you're just ahead of your time. Is there a surreal experience? Do you think this can't be happening? Is there a decision whether you or the world is crazy? In exploring the ideas and associations you have about mental illness, what comes up when being asked questions and brainstorming? You will find that it helps you to see what is important to you personally. Unless you are a professional, most of what we know about mental illness is wrong, or at least incomplete. There are a lot of unknowns concerning mental illness. So it's your personal associations that are more useful when working with the dreams. If you got up in the morning, looked on the internet for the illness of your dream, what surprised you and you didn't know is less helpful than what you already knew and got wrong. Themes. There is a lot of societal views about mental illness, and the fear of being stigmatized is common. Most of us have a fear of being labeled as something. Some people are labeled and struggle within society's box. So in a dream, it can reflect an underlying social fear, an anxiety about fitting in or being good enough. It can be difficult to talk about mental illness. The underlying difficulty is fuel for dreams. Most of us have boundaries and trust issues, so we could be afraid of being labeled, of being vulnerable, and we can also be afraid to deal with a problem, so we distract ourselves, avoiding the problem, and that can appear in the dream symbolized by crazy. Some people are afraid to share dreams because of what it could reveal. There is another theme where change, new awareness, and new aspects of ourselves start to appear, and we can resist these changes, or the dream may signal a need to process or integrate the new awareness. For instance, when you're young and enter into puberty, there is a lot of change going on. How you are perceived, how you see others, and there are new feelings and new roles. Making sense of it can seem crazy. You have the loss of control, the new identity, new feelings and awareness. You may not be very aware of what's happening. It can happen at different speed among your friends. All of it is enough to drive you insane. There is a wide variety of illnesses. You can make a long list. Some are obvious, such as depression or schizophrenia. Some are less obvious, such as anorexia. What about ADHD? Some conditions we don't always think of as mental illness, such as addictions. Drug use can be a form of self-medication for other issues. And some people think of alcoholism as a moral failing. To others, it's a disease. There are many people who struggle with emotional issues and coping and don't have a defined illness. No sane person would take that on. Is it the brain or behavior? What about a moral failing? Let's look at some examples. The named illness. This woman I knew dreamed that she was riding in a car explaining to an older woman that she had the Fab's disease. In the dream, she understood that this meant she was losing her sanity. Upon questioning, she associated the fob with her car. She thought of the opener, a key fob. She had once lost one in high school and it had been expensive for her to replace. She thought of the older woman as an aspect of herself. The idea of riding had the association of trust and a loss of control. She realized since her divorce, she never sat in the passenger seat. In the end, she thought it related to her anxieties. When she lost the fob, she didn't like how her mother treated her as irresponsible, so she had stressed out about what other people would think of her at the time of her divorce. She had started taking fitness classes to try to burn off the stress. And this brought up memories of being a competitive cheerleader in high school that had fallen away once she graduated, something she couldn't continue to pursue. Part of her divorce had centered around her husband's spending habits and had put them in debt. Now she was not feeling secure about her financial situation. There were competing fears that she was not being responsible enough and how people would see her in light of the divorce. At the same time, she was taking control of the situation. So the disease was like a name for her inner awareness and inner struggle within that situation. The symptom. I knew of someone who dreamed they were in their home, though it looked more like their office at work. There was a table with a golden knife on it. It was very ornate, arabesque with filigree metalwork and a jewel on the end of the hilt. The knife started talking to him, saying, "I will kill you once I find the right hand." In the dream, the dreamer realized that he must be crazy because inanimate objects were talking to him. When questioned about the dream, he associated the knife with a letter opener that his grandmother had. He used to always want to go see it when he visited as a child. He had 2 grandmothers that he used to visit on vacations, and one was very cold and didn't seem to like kids. Which is a big deal when you're little, but she had that cool letter opener. It was gold and ornate and looked like it was from 1001 Arabian Nights. The home and office he associated with a new person at work. This made him think of his grandmother. The person wasn't interested in doing the job, the company mission, but rather was interested in getting promoted and moving into management. He got the impression the person was very manipulative and would say the right things but not really be doing the right actions. He was afraid the person would make the work environment toxic. He was also worried that he'd be cut out or stabbed in the back. This had happened before with someone who was a narcissist. He had left his previous job because of that person. Though it worked out for the better, he was still traumatized by it. He hadn't thought about it, but was stressed out at work. He felt uneasy around the new person. He realized he was afraid that he was just projecting his fear on the new person. This is what he thought the talking inanimate object was about. Looking for the right hand to him was a form of power and manipulation. The person was looking for the right situation and tool in order to work it for his own ends. But he thought this might be himself getting a grip on what was happening. It turned out in the end he'd been denying what his gut had been telling him. Fortunately, someone else in the company realized this and the new person was let go of. In the dream, he had internalized the problem as his own rather than being confident that the situation was outside in the work environment. Here is one with a named illness and symptom and being called crazy. With some illnesses, we tend to think of something being wrong in the brain. With others, we tend to associate it with behavior. This can be reflected in the dream, such as a theme where there is something wrong with you. So I worked with a guy who as a kid dreamed he was a cyborg and needed an update. So he had to go to the mall and everybody was looking at him and he couldn't get the update to work. They all seemed to think he was defective. The dreamer wanted to examine the dream years later because it stuck in his mind and he always wondered about it. It was very vivid. It turned out to be feelings of awkwardness towards meeting girls. The awkwardness was being defective and the symptom was needing an update and being called crazy, or in this case, defective. Were you labeled with a named condition? Was there some behavior or something happening to you that was in the dream that brought the association with insanity? For instance, manic depression can be associated with some imbalance in the brain, or it can be associated with the mood swings. Sometimes moral outlooks can enter into the equation if behavior doesn't fit our norms about what is right and wrong. And those moral struggles with ourselves or others appear in dreams symbolized by insanity. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. If you want more dreams, then subscribe. I'm Sterling Hart. This is Dreamlight. Till next time.